Okay, time to get uncomfortable. I don't like talking about my experiences in front of a camera. I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. So there's going to be a lot of probably snap edits in this, but it's trying to trying to get out of my comfort zone in this stage of my journey. Just as a quick kind of recap, I started running about 10 months ago, and last week I finished my first half marathon in 1 hour and 55 minutes. I was pretty happy with that, and we did that at Asheville, and it was pretty awesome. And so I kind of wanted to kind of a thought dump as a first time half marathoner. So everything's still kind of new and I'm still learning a lot, but I kind of wanted to kind of get my thoughts out on video while I still have a second. And to kind of start from the beginning, I got some bad blood work in, and basically it was I need to be eating right, and I need to really be focusing on cardio. And I started changing my diet completely, overhauled everything, and also really got into cardio and started really upping my mileage. And so the carrot on the stick for doing all that cardio would be I would sign up for races. And so I did a like a local 5K kind of thing. I can't remember the time for it. Thanksgiving, me and my wife did a 5K and I did a 10K. I'm going to put the Strava post for the 5K here, and then the 10K numbers here. And then I went into like a 14-week training block for the half marathon. And I wanted to go into it not surviving, but actually crossing the finish line strong. I did a bunch of tempos, progression tempos, and intervals, and long runs, and recovery runs. And I was running, my average amount of runs I did a week was about like probably 6 runs a week. The majority of my week was definitely like recovery kind of chill runs, but I would do 1 to 2 quality sessions of speed work, and then I would definitely do a long run at least once a week, like the Saturday or Sunday, 8 mile or 10 mile long run or whatever. Feeling pretty good in my training going into the half marathon. By the time I got to the end of it, I felt really comfortable with like my progression tempos, especially if I kept my nutrition dialed. And that was the biggest thing, is because I feel like I'm super skinny. So I don't have a lot of fat to burn, and I don't feel like I have a lot of energy on reserve. So I definitely like go through energy pretty quickly, or like glycogen pretty quickly. And so I have to keep on my nutrition. And if I did that, my runs would be freaking fantastic. And if I forgot to eat, or if it was like the timing was bad, then it would definitely be a miserable slog. And so that was definitely something that I learned, because like a 5K and a 10K, you can kind of get away with, if you're not running crazy hard, you can kind of get away with not super dialed nutrition. But for the half marathon, it was definitely I felt like you have to get your nutrition right, especially if you're racing a half marathon. That was definitely a wake up call, that like, hey, I need to get this right. I need to really focus on carbs and get my sugar and that kind of stuff before runs and things like that. And also training with like gels and stuff like that while I'm running. That was also something, because I would just like bonk at the mile 7 if I didn't get my nutrition right, especially if I was doing like a tempo or something like that. My like training block was kind of perfectly right when the Asheville half marathon and marathon was going. So I signed up for that race a couple of weeks before, because I started half marathon training, but I didn't sign up for a race until like probably 2 months before the Asheville half marathon. And I realized that at the end of my training, the half marathon aligned within a week of the actual Asheville half marathon. And so I was like, that's perfect. That just fell into my lap. And it was a awesome experience. It was fantastic. My wife has a friend who has a house in Asheville. So we actually got to stay in like 5 minutes from downtown Asheville, like literally 5 minutes from the start line, but it was like, it was so chill. Like we were able to just, I was able to wake up, I was able to eat what I needed to, and then we were able to just cruise over to the start line and just go. And that was fantastic. And so I want to thank Katie's friend, you know who you are, for allowing us to stay there, because that was definitely a huge help. I also like over prepared for this race. Definitely. I had in my gym bag, I had every type of outfit for every temperature and weather setting possible, because I did not want it to start like raining or there be a cold snap or a heat wave and then I'm just sweating and miserable at mile 10 and my race is just garbage and that whole thing just goes. I over prepared. I had a whole box of gels ready to go. I had multiple shoes. I ended up racing in these. I don't know if you can see, but these are the New Balance SC trainers, not the elites, but the trainers. And I think these are I think these are actually like a feminine shoe, like a female shoe. But I got those on sale for like $60 to $70. And so when there are carbon plates, New Balance carbon plates for $70, you take it if it fits, and it does. And they are a freaking fantastic shoe. And we don't discriminate around here about shoes. I'll wear women's shoes if it's the right shoe. And I also did my shakeout run in that. And that brings me to the next point. I also tapered for my half marathon. Basically, for a taper, what that means is you have your training block where you do X amount of mileage per week on average. And then 1 to 2 weeks before your race, you significantly decrease that. And it kind of depends on the taper. And there's a lot of different factors that I've seen, and different people do different things with tapers. What I personally did was I decreased my mileage by about 50% the first week, and then 75% the next week. And that's not really scientific based. That was just like what felt right to me at the time. And by the time race day started, I felt really, really good. And I also have an app that tracks my long-term fitness, my short-term fitness, and then also my acute fitness, like what happened that day, pretty much. That kind of gives me a good beat on how much fatigue, like how much chronic fatigue and acute fatigue my body is having. And then once I shed that fatigue by not working, you'll feel super fresh on race day. And that's the idea. That is definitely a big deal for me, because I really like structure. I have like mileage goals in my mind, and then now I am not doing those mileage goals. And so it definitely was like, I kind of felt super like, you know, because I wasn't running as much. And so like on race day, I felt like like a cannon was about to go off, or like a freaking squirrel. I just needed to start running. At Asheville, I also beforehand drove a little bit of the course, and I had the GPS data from the sign up. It goes up for 3 miles, and then it goes down, and then it kind of, I think it's like at mile 6 or 7, it kind of goes back up again, and then at mile 10, it goes down. And man, those hills were horrible. They were awful, and they were humbling, because I don't have a lot of hills where I train. Like there are definitely some, and there are some hills that will wind you where I train, but it's nothing like Asheville. It's not 3 miles of this going up. And so that was definitely humbling. And when we were driving around the day before the race, it was like, I remember looking at my wife and being like, this is gonna be freaking serious. And so I had a game plan on my pacing strategy. I wasn't going to do even splits, and I didn't end up doing even splits on it. I wanted it to be a negative split. I wanted to try to do a negative split for the race, but which means that I did the race slower, and then I finished the race faster. And so if I ran 2 miles, I would run the first mile a little slower, and then on mile 2, I would pick up the pace and go faster, and that's a negative split. And so I really wanted to try to do that, and I kinda did that, but it was definitely I kinda let the hills determine my pace because I didn't want my heart rate to go way out of control where I'm, like, in the 190 going up that the first 3 miles, because I knew I was gonna cook myself. So I'm, like, kinda freaking out because these hills are humbling, and finally, when we get there on race day, I kinda get myself in the middle of the pack because I'm not gonna walk the thing, but I'm not an elite runner who is going to smash this course in less than an hour either. And not only that, but Asheville's a Boston qualifier. There was a lot of people who were like extremely competitive, who were like very, and they were super chill, but it was like on race day, like, man, they were locked in. And it's like, that would be cool to eventually get up to that level. I'm not slow, but I'm also not fast either. And so I pretty much sat myself right in the middle of the corral. And I literally found the pacer that was doing the 4-hour marathon pacer and the 2-hour marathon pacer. After the 3-mile mark, we went ahead and picked up my pace a little bit in order to come in at under 2 hours. So my pace for that section, conservative, but it wasn't as conservative as I told my wife it was going to be. So I think for that, I told my wife that I was going to do that section at a 10-minute mile pace to help my heart rate kind of stay under control. And in the back of my mind, I kind of knew I was probably going to pick up my pace a little bit. And so I allowed for like the 10-mile pace to be kind of a buffer, because once I get into races, the adrenaline goes, and I know I go a little bit faster than I knew I was going to probably be a little bit faster, and my pace was going to be a little bit faster than actually doing 10-minute miles. So I kind of locked in right with the 2-hour pacer. And it actually felt like a really good pace for me. And my heart rate was kind of got a little out of control, but it wasn't too bad. And every minute I was like, can I keep this up for the rest of the race if this hill continues? And I felt like I could with my training. I felt pretty comfortable with it, but it was a little bit higher than what I was anticipating. After mile 3, I let the hills determine my pace. And so I didn't like fall down the hills, but I definitely like opened up and loosened up and didn't hit the brakes going down these hills as hard as a lot of other people were. And so there was a lot of times where I was passing people on the downhill. And I know that that is like really hard on your legs, but with the shoes that I was wearing, those New Balances, they had pretty decent cushion, and it wasn't too terrible going down. And it wasn't like I was going uncontrolled. It was just a little on the faster side. I know that that's a rookie mistake to let the field kind of carry you, but I kept auditing myself. And what I find really cool is, because I have a Garmin, when I start any workout, it'll email my wife, and then it'll give her a link for my live stats where it tells her my heart rate and pace and my location, and probably my splits and how long I've been running and all that stuff. And so when my wife dropped me off, and then she went to a coffee shop with her friend, and so she was telling me after the race that she was watching my pace, and it was way faster than what she was expecting, and it was faster than what I was expecting. And so they were like, "Oh my gosh, this isn't going according to plan," because I was definitely going a minute faster than what I was expecting, which was that heart rate was a little bit higher than what I wanted at that section of the race. I kind of wanted to keep it down in the 160s at the beginning, but hindsight is 2020 and all that good stuff. And I felt like I still, even at that pace, I still finished the race good, and I didn't blow up either. The hills determined my pace on this one for most of the race, and it's just because I'm still kind of new, and so I kind of can just have to get by with what I have, because I don't have the fitness to do 6-minute even mile paces with even splits throughout the race. I don't have that yet. I also have my nutrition locked down though. I felt pretty good about my nutrition, but 2 hours before I ate a bagel with strawberry jam because I trained with that before, and 1 cup of coffee because I need my caffeine or I'm going to cry. And I did that for breakfast 2 hours before the start line. And at the 45-minute marker ish, I took a gel and I would basically just hold it in my hand and just like take like a sip and then let that kind of swallow, let that mellow for a second. And then I would take another sip, let that settle, another sip, settle. And I would do that process for probably about 10 minutes. That settled really well for me. I did that at the 45-ish minute marker and then the hour 15 to 20-minute marker as well. Trained the half marathon to take 2 gels, but I brought an extra gel just in case. Once we got through mile 10, I definitely didn't feel like I needed it, but I took one anyway, just because I knew I was going to be giving it like everything that I had at the last 2 to 3 miles. And so I didn't want to run out of energy. And then I was going to be frustrated because I have a gel in my pocket that I didn't use, but I needed the nutrition. And so that was me overthinking, but it actually served me pretty okay, and then tried to finish out the race. And that was my nutrition plan. Here's also a photo of me taking that gel and fighting some serious demons I can barely see, but the photographer had like a big pink like smile you're on camera thing, and so I had to hit a pose. I wanted to be online. A little bit after the 10-minute mile marker, I try to pick up my pace, and it's like I can't. My heart rate is fine. I think it was at the 170s, but I was trying to pick up the pace from the pace that I was doing and I couldn't. Like I was trying to really like crank down on the pace and really negative split this thing. And it was like I was pressing the gas pedal and there was nothing coming out of the engine. And that was definitely like oh crap, like there ain't nothing left here. But it was starting to get to the point where it was like I was like kind of losing control, and so I would have to back up again, and I like kind of start stop kind of thing. I could feel the check engine light coming on where it's like this is kind of uncontrolled and this is a little bit dangerous and you're going to blow up, and so I would have to back down. Eventually the mile 12 came and I tried again, and it was like I did it and it was starting to get uncontrolled, and so I had to back off again. And it was to the point where it's like you go over this bridge and you can see the brewery, and I know that the brewery is the finish line and I can see it. And so I am like crossing this bridge and I am trying to like dig deep to try to get the pace higher, and it was like you are going to blow up like steps away from the finish line. You got to chill out until like probably the last 200 to 400 meters, where I was eventually able to cram down because I could physically see the finish line. So if I blew up, it would be over the finish line. And so I did like a mini sprint finish over the finish line. And my wife, you could see a video of my wife giving me my medal at the end. I can, I can't see anything. I am trying to like not collapse. I was so cooked, and I had to like sit in the grass and just like sit there and lay down. And here's a video of that right here. I felt really good with that effort. I felt like because I would like hit the gas, so to speak, and nothing would come, I felt really good about that. Not because I couldn't hit those pace goals that I had in my mind, but I knew that there wasn't anything I could have done. Put everything out there on the table. And even though it's not like elite status, it was definitely like I sustained something extremely uncomfortable for a very long period of time. And there was nothing else in my body that I could have done to go faster. I wasn't reserving anything. And I felt really good about that. And I'm telling you, this past week, like my mentality of like, hey, I can do hard things. It's like, It's so freeing. I did that, and, like, yeah, it's not elite, and whatever, and, I know I didn't get a world record, and it's not going to I didn't win the, like, national championships, and I didn't qualify for Boston and all that stuff, but it's like, even though at that pace isn't anything amazing, it's like, I can do hard things, and, like, every time I think about it and, like, look back and it's like, "Yeah, I can do that." Like, that was something that was hard that a lot of people choose not to even do, and that was in it I can do hard things, and it was, like, definitely, like, affirmation in my mind of, like, "Hey, like, you're on the right path. You're doing it right. Like, you're doing hard things. You're choosing the hard things to do in life, and you're actually pursuing it, and you're accomplishing it the best that you can." And that feels really good. And I want to say that, like, for people who are thinking about getting into running or do a little bit of running, I think it's so freeing, even though you might not do like elite status stuff. But it like none of that crap kind of matters. It's so, like, running is definitely, like, kind of individualistic in the sense that, like, my PR and your PR are gonna look completely different, but it's still gonna have the same outcome of you did the best that you can for that race or for that run or for that, accomplishment that you did or that hard thing that you did. Everybody's mountain is different, and that's okay, because I'm not the one climbing your mountain. You're the one who's doing that. And once you summit that mountain, no matter how big or small you think that is, as long as you, like, actually try and summit it, that's what matters, because there's so many people who don't even try. And so the fact that you even did your best is what counts. That has been really resonating in my mind, because I would fall into the trap of my time is an elite. That dude finished the half marathon in 30 minutes. Like, I can't maintain that pace. I can't do that. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. But that dude's journey is totally different from mine. But I'm still out here doing the best that I can. And that's what matters. And even if the best that you can is just like going to the mailbox and back, if you refuse to go to the mailbox yesterday, to walk to the mailbox yesterday and then come back, but then you choose to today, like, that's an accomplishment. And that's what counts. I feel like a lot of people get into the analysis paralysis of, like, comparing themselves to others, and I don't think that that's right to do that, because then you're just going to stagnate and then you're going to just give up, and instead of trying your best, you just walk away, and then that's kind of the real failure, is not even trying, because you're scared of what other people are doing with their own journeys. That's the real failure. But if you are out there doing the best that you can, like, who cares what they think, or who cares what their time is? It matters what your time is. And it matters that, hey, a year ago, before, you weren't even doing this, and now you're out here doing this. And that's kind of how it has been for me personally, is, hey, last year I was on the couch. I was sedentary last year. I would go to work and then come home and sit on the couch. And now I feel like my life is so much better, because I am extremely active, and I am managing, like a really healthy diet, and really making sure that, like, my nutrition is appropriate and healthy, and that I am not wasting away, but also giving my body, like, good nutrition, and not like unhealthy stuff that's like easy to find, or like junk food and things like that. Those are my thoughts about the Asheville half marathon. I was super happy with how things went, and kind of in that, like, that PR afterglow of, like, man, that was a freaking awesome thing. And I am excited to do it again. I would love to do it again next year if I can. And so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you guys later.